If you've ever felt like no matter how hard you try, you just keep hitting a wall, it might not be a you problem. It might be a space problem. Welcome to Thrive with Dr. Liz, where we hack the spaces around us to unlock success. Let's dive in. Have you ever had one of those days where you're sitting at work, staring at your screen, thinking, why is this so damn hard? You're showing up and you're doing all the things that you're supposed to do. You're working hard, you're staying motivated, you're following all the advice about grit and resilience and discipline. Maybe you're even trying all those productivity hacks people swear by, get up at 5 a.m. and work out. It's definitely not for me. Really, I'm not a morning person. Anyway, back on track. And yet somehow you're still not getting anywhere. Maybe it feels like you're pushing shit up a hill. And no matter what you do, you just can't seem to hit your objectives or your goals. And when that happens, when you're stuck in that frustrating cycle, the first instinct most of us have is to look inward. Maybe I'm not just good enough, or maybe I don't have what it takes. Maybe I'm not smart enough or disciplined enough or strategic enough, because that's what we've been trained to believe, right? That success is purely about effort, hustle harder, work smarter, just want it more and you'll get there. And sure, I'm not denying effort absolutely matters. Hard work certainly plays a role, but it's not the whole story. It's not the whole picture. Because here's the thing, we don't talk about enough. Your ability to thrive isn't just about you. It's about the space that you're in. I'll let that pause and land for a minute. Let me put it this way for you. Imagine two people running a race. Same distance, same goal, but one person is on a smooth track with perfect weather and nothing in their way. The other is running uphill in the rain, dodging potholes. Now, if the second person doesn't win, do we sit there and say, wow, they just didn't try hard enough? No, we recognize that the conditions were completely different. But why is it when it comes to work, performance, and success, we tend to pretend the conditions don't matter? We tell people to just hustle instead of fixing the damn track. And I learned this lesson the hard way when I was just 13 years old. I got expelled from school. Not suspended, not put in detention, expelled. And here's the kicker. I didn't even do the thing they accused me of. I admit I was there, but I wasn't the one who broke the rules. But I was the one that got blamed. And just like that, I was out. Now, at the time, it felt like my world had ended. Imagine being a kid and having adults, authority figures, essentially telling you, you don't belong here. That, that kind of stuff sticks with you. I thought maybe they were right, that maybe I was the problem, that maybe I was just bad at school, bad at following the rules, bad at fitting in. But looking back now, it's so obvious I wasn't the problem. The space I was in was. Because here's what happened next. I changed schools, and suddenly, almost actually overnight, things felt easier. I wasn't fighting to stay afloat. I actually understood what I was learning. I started to do well. And really, it wasn't because I had magically become a different person. I was like the same brain, the same ability, the same kid. But suddenly, I was in a different space. A space where I was supported, where I wasn't already assumed to be a problem. A space where I could thrive. And that was the first time it became glaringly obvious, not just to me, but to my parents at that time, that I wasn't necessarily the problem. It was the space. This pattern, it doesn't just happen in school, of course. It happens everywhere. I've seen it play out over and over again in workplaces, in teams, in relationships, in entire industries, actually. People who thought or were made to think they weren't capable, when really they were just in a space that made thriving impossible. And this applies not just to individuals, but also to leaders and organizations as a whole. How many times have you seen someone who, struggling in one role, absolutely take off when they change jobs or joined a different team? Or seen a leader lose their best talent because the conditions they created weren't enabling success? How many companies think they have a talent problem when what they really have is a space problem? So let's do a little exercise. Think about a time in your life when you felt totally on, confident, energized, like you were operating at your highest level, like everything was clicking and in flow. Now contrast that with a time when you felt the opposite, when you were constantly second-guessing yourself, exhausted, frustrated, like nothing you did was ever good enough or was ever going to work. Now, before you come at me, I'm not saying we don't change and evolve as people. Of course we do. We learn from our experiences, we grow, we adjust. But what I am saying is that in those different situations, you were inherently the same person. The difference wasn't you. It was the space around you. And here's why that matters. Your environment has a huge influence on everything that you do. It dictates what feels easy versus what feels hard or impossible. Whether you feel safe to speak up or constantly second guess yourself. Whether you feel motivated or just exhausted. Whether you grow or whether you shrink. And most of the time, we don't even realize how much it's shaping us. Now, let's apply this beyond just you. If you lead a team, run a business, or influence workplace culture, ask yourself, are you creating conditions that help people thrive? Or are you unconsciously, or maybe even consciously, creating barriers that make their work harder than it needs to be done? Do your employees have clarity and support and psychological safety? Or are they stuck in survival mode, burning energy just trying to figure out what's expected of them? Well, because if people are disengaged, burned out, or not meeting expectations, before assuming it's a talent problem, take a hard look at whether it's actually a space problem. So what now? Looking at it from an individual point of view, ask yourself, is my environment setting me up for success? Or is it making me fight for every inch? If you're in a position of leadership, ask yourself, am I expecting high performance in an environment that actually makes that performance hard, or it may be even impossible? Because once you see it, you can start changing it. Now, I'm not saying you always have full control over your environment. I get it. Sometimes you can't just up and leave a toxic job immediately. Sometimes you have to navigate a tough space while figuring out your next move. And I'm also not saying we should ignore personal accountability. Sometimes it's not the environment. It is you. But before assuming it's you or the people around you, first check, is this space a problem? Because if it is, you have 3 choices, the way I see it. 1 is to thrive. Shape your environment so it fuels success. 2, hack the system and navigate a bad space until you can fix it or escape it. Or 3, just get the fuck out. Recognize when a space is beyond saving and make your exit. Right now, do a gut check. Take a look at a space you're in. It might be your job, a team you're in, your relationships, maybe even your physical space. Is it making success easier for you or harder? If it's harder, that's your sign something needs to change. Because you don't have to keep running uphill in the rain, dodging potholes forever. And if you're wondering what to do about it, well, we've got a lot more to talk about.